Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi commissions Vizhinjam International Seaport in the southern state of Kerala. Says that the country's coastal states and port cities will become key centers of growth for a developed India. US Vice President J.D. Vance says Pakistan should cooperate to ensure that terrorists operating in its territory are hunted down. Apple shifts production to India to mitigate potential tariffs. The CEO Tim Cook says a majority of iPhones sold in the US in the current quarter will come from India. Waves 2025 hosts the Global Media Dialogue with delegates from over 60 countries. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnav emphasizes on collaboration between government and creators. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the southern state of Kerala and dedicated to the nation Vizhinjam International Deepwater Multi-Purpose Seaport. That's worth 8,900 crore rupees. It is the country's first dedicated container transshipment port that represents the transformative advancements being made in India's maritime sector as part of a unified vision of Viksit Bharat.
इस सी पोर्ट को 8,800 करोड़ रुपीस की लागत से तैयार किया गया है। अभी इस ट्रांसशिपमेंट हब की जो क्षमता है वो भी आने वाले समय में बढ़कर के 3 गुनी हो जाएगी। यहां दुनिया के बड़े मालवाहक जहाज आसानी से आ सकेंगे। अभी तक भारत का 75% ट्रांसशिपमेंट भारत के बाहर के पोर्ट पर होता था। इससे देश को बहुत बड़ा रेवेन्यू लॉस होता आया है। ये परिस्थिति अब बदलने जा रही है। अब देश का पैसा देश के काम आएगा। जो पैसा बाहर जाता था वो केरला और विजिंजम के लोगों के लिए नई इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज लेकर आएगा।
Well, now let's tell you the features of this deepwater seaport. India's first dedicated container transshipment port marks a significant milestone in the country's maritime infrastructure, aligning with Viksit Bharat vision for a developed and self-reliant nation. Boosting a natural deep draft of nearly 20 meters, the port is strategically located just 10 nautical miles from key international sea routes that connect Europe, the Persian Gulf and the Far East. Positioned near one of the world's busiest sea trade corridors, it is set to play a crucial role in enhancing India's logistics efficiency and reducing dependence on foreign ports for cargo transshipment. The advancement not only boosts India's maritime capabilities, but also strengthens its position in global trade by establishing a more competitive and self-sustained transshipment ecosystem. In a landmark visit to Andhra Pradesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid the foundation stone and dedicated multiple development projects worth over 58,000 crore rupees in Amravati to the nation. The Prime Minister inaugurated the 7 national highway projects in Andhra Pradesh and also dedicated to the nation railway projects aimed at enhancing connectivity and boosting capacity. The Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone of missile test range at Nagayalanka in Andhra Pradesh. This is worth around 1,460 crore rupees. In a continued wave of cyber offensives, Pakistan-sponsored hacker groups such as the cyber group Hawks 1337 and the National Cyber Crew attempted to breach several Indian websites on Friday. However, India's cybersecurity agency swiftly detected and neutralized these hacking efforts, ensuring that the security of sensitive digital infrastructure remains in place. These attempts, they follow repeated efforts by Pakistan-based hackers to target websites linked to vulnerable sections of society, including children and veterans. Among the affected platforms was the website of the Hotel Institute, the Army Institute of Hotel Management, and the Indian Air Force veterans. The cybersecurity experts suggest that these incidents demonstrate Pakistan's intent to escalate digital tensions through persistent cyber intrusions. The United States has once again reaffirmed its strong support for India in the fight against terrorism. The top U.S. officials, including the Vice President there, J.D. Vance, they have condemned the attack and made it clear that they expect Pakistan to take decisive action against the terrorists operating from their territory. We bring you the latest reactions from Washington, where U.S. leaders have stood firmly with India. DD India's Shobhit Chandola reports.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has said in a TV interview that the United States hopes that Pakistan will ensure that terrorists operating in their territory are hunted down and dealt with
in a way that doesn't lead to a broader regional conflict. And we hope, frankly, that Pakistan, to the extent that they're responsible, cooperates with India to make sure that the terrorists, sometimes operating in their territory, are hunted down and dealt with. That's how we hope this unfolds. We're obviously in close contact. We'll see what happens.
This is not the only time when U.S. officials and leaders have firmly stood by India and rejected Pakistani false narratives on the Pahalgam attack. U.S. President Trump was quick to condemn the attack, expressing his outrage over the loss of innocent lives. He shared his support for India, reassuring the country that America stood firmly behind it. Tulsi Gabbard, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, also sent her condolences on social media, offering prayers for the victims' families. She promised that the United States would support India in its efforts to find those responsible for the attack. The House Foreign Affairs Committee, a key group in the U.S. politics, took to social media to criticize the New York Times over its reporting of the dastardly attack. They pointed out the newspaper had referred to the attackers as militants instead of calling them terrorists. The committee made it clear this was a terrorist attack. In a press briefing, U.S. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce refused to entertain a Pakistani journalist's question about the possibility of President Trump mediating between India and Pakistan. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also called on Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and spoke of the need to condemn the terror attack on April 22nd in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. Same day, Rubio called External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and expressed his sorrow for the loss of lives in the horrific terrorist attack in Pahalgam. He also reaffirmed United States' commitment to cooperation with India against terrorism. The US has made it clear more than once that it stands firmly with India in the fight against terrorism. Shobhit Chandola's report for DD India.
Pakistan continues unprovoked ceasefire violations along the LOC and Jammu's international border. The Indian Army has responded proportionately. These violations follow India's measures after the Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 civilians in Baisaran Meadow. Many Pakistani nationals were stranded at Atari border as Pakistan kept its gates closed. India has extended their departure deadline until further notice, allowing exits via the integrated checkpost at Atari with due clearance. So far, over 1,800 Indians have returned home from Pakistan through the Atari border. On the other hand, more than 950 Pakistan nationals have returned from India through the Atari-Wagah border. As of now, a total of 2,794 people have crossed the border following the Government of India's directive. The Angola President, João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, arrived on a three-day visit to India. President Lourenço will receive a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, followed by talks with President Draupadi Murmu and a banquet in his honor. He will also hold delegation-level discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who will host a luncheon. Several MOUs are expected, strengthening bilateral ties. This marks Narendeshwar's first state visit to India and the first by an Angolan president in 38 years, coinciding with 40 years of diplomatic relations. Both nations share warm ties and support each other in global forums, including the United Nations. In a major boost to the public transport in the national capital, the Delhi government launched 400 e-buses on Friday. The Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta and the Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan inaugurated 400 e-buses at Kushak Nalla bus depot. And in fact, Gupta called this a great gift for Delhi, highlighting its role in reducing pollution. And she also noted plans to reach 2,080 buses by the end of the year. Let's take a look at other stories making the news today. The Union Minister Kiren Rijiju led a high-level Indian delegation to Vietnam on Friday, escorting the sacred Buddha relic from the Sarnath, and this is for public exposition during the UN Day of Vesak 2025. The relic was ceremonially received at Vietnam Buddhist University before a grand procession carried it to Than Tham Pagoda for public veneration. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami attended the ceremonial opening of the Kedarnath Dham on Friday as a band with the Indian Army's Garhwal Rifles played devotional tunes to mark the occasion. The Chief Minister Dhami also distributed prasad to devotees this is at the Mukhya Sevak Bandhara, which was organized on the temple premises. And he informed that the doors of the Badrinath Dham will open on Sunday. Still to come here on DD India Live. A ruling Labour Party candidate has lost to a Reform Party candidate in a UK by-poll. And Tim Walz is made UN ambassador, and Rubio gets additional charge as US President Donald Trump's NSA. Germany's domestic intelligence agency designates far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, as an extremist group. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed an attack near Syria's presidential palace in Damascus early on Friday, reiterating his vow to protect members of the Druze community. This marks the second Israeli strike in as many days amid sectarian violence. Israel's strikes have further complicated interim President Ahmed al-Shahara's efforts to stabilize the country. Earlier on Wednesday, in the Syrian southern province of Shweda, the heartland of the Druze minority, 40 Druze fighters were killed, with 35 dying in an ambush on the road to Damascus. Nigel Farage's populist right-wing Reform UK party secured a parliamentary seat in northwest England on Friday, winning by the narrowest margin in a UK parliamentary by-election history. In fact, the Reform candidate Sarah Pochin defeated the Labour candidate by a mere 6 votes in the Runcorn and Helsby. So what's happened is that the Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who won one of the largest parliamentary majorities in British history last summer, he has experienced a rapid decline in his popularity and this is of his newly elected government. US President Donald Trump dismissed National Security Advisor Mike Waltz over the Signalgate scandal and appointed the Secretary of State Marco Rubio as an interim replacement, marking the first major reshuffle of his second term. Let's look at this report.
In a significant cabinet reshuffle on Thursday, US President Donald Trump dismissed National Security Advisor Mike Waltz following mounting controversy over the recent Signalgate scandal. Trump nominated Waltz as the next ambassador to the United Nations. The decision marks the first major shakeup of Trump's second term. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been appointed interim National Security Advisor after Waltz's departure. Waltz's departure comes in the wake of the Signalgate incident, a major security lapse that unfolded in March when Waltz accidentally added The Atlantic magazine's editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg to a secure signal chat discussing a classified US airstrike on Houthi rebels in Yemen. The group shared sensitive operational details, including precise strike timings. Goldberg later published information from the conversation, triggering bipartisan concerns over information security and Waltz's resignation. Trump thanked Waltz for his service to the nation. The feelings were reciprocated by Waltz, who took to social media to express his gratitude to President Trump. Waltz served a little more than 100 days in Trump's second term. US Vice President J.D. Vance said Waltz's removal and shift to the UN could be seen as a promotion and had nothing to do with Signalgate. But the Signalgate scandal might not be over for Trump. Democrats are now turning up the heat on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who revealed timings that US warplanes would take off to bomb targets in the same signal chat. Hegseth was also reported to have shared those details in a separate signal group chain that included his wife. Bureau Report, DD India.
South Korea's acting President Lee Joo-ho chaired an emergency National Security Council meeting on Friday, vowing to protect national security amid rising uncertainty. He stepped into the role as acting leader from his role of education minister after two predecessors, including the finance minister, abruptly exited. Lee has replaced Prime Minister Han Duck-seo, who resigned ahead of a likely presidential bid, and Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok, who quit just before midnight Thursday. Lee stressed unwavering military readiness against potential North Korean aggression. The country heads to a snap election on June 3 to elect a new president.
I have taken on the heavy responsibility of serving as the acting chair of the National Security Council, a role that comes with a profound sense of duty. Above all, I believe it is the government's foremost mission to safeguard the nation's security and to protect the lives and safety of its people.
Germany's domestic intelligence agency has designated the far-right Alternative for Germany, or the AfD, as an extremist group that threatens democracy, a move that enables greater surveillance of the party, which came second in February's federal election. The classification allows use of covert methods like informants and wiretaps. Authorities say that the AfD, what it does is it promotes ethnic exclusion, viewing citizens of immigrant backgrounds, especially Muslims, as unequal. Now, the move comes ahead of the Chancellor-designate Friedrich Merz taking office and amid rising support for the AfD, which now faces civil service restrictions as well as political isolation. Air Marshal Narandeshwar Tari has officially taken over as the new Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force. He succeeds Air Marshal S.P. Dharkar, who superannuated on April 30. Prior to this, Air Marshal Tari was heading the Southern Western Air Command in Gandhinagar. The decorated officer was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor at the Air Headquarters, Vayu Bhavan, as he assumed his new role. Some updates now from the Waves Summit. Amir Khan spoke at the Waves event in Mumbai during a session which was called Studios of the Future, putting India on the world map, the world studio map, that is. And he praised the initiative, noting that this is the first government to focus on the media industry.
Almost now 35 years. And in these 35 years, I have not seen any government, and there have been a number of governments, who has ever thought about us. So this is the first time that any government has applied their mind and their emotions and said, "Ki yaar, let's do something in media and entertainment. Let's make that powerful. Let's let India be a leader in that." And it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for all of us as Indian filmmakers across the languages. That for the first time the government is showing interest in us. This is the time. What we discussed today in Waves, a lot of all these discussions will actually finally translate into policies. So this is a dialogue that has just started.
And speaking at one of the sessions at the first of its kind Waves Summit, which is being held in Mumbai, the filmmaker Ritesh Sidhwani and the multiplex owner Ajay Biji, they spoke about the evolving OTT platforms in India.
What it gave you an opportunity which the streaming platform gave you is to tell different kind of content, right? You had an audience there which was not watching broadcast TV, but was consuming content from around the world. So you go out there and you could tell stories. I mean, that gave a birth to a lot of new talent behind the camera. Today, people have discovered Indian content. Whether, like Amir says, sometimes it's by accident or whatever, at least they're aware. So today, if an Indian film goes outside the diaspora, they're aware of it. The Western audience is aware because your content is available now in 200 countries.
Right. Also recognize that it's done a great thing for movie makers and creative community and the consumers, because even the threshold of storytelling has become very cutting edge now. And it's put filmmakers also on their toes that this is what the audiences want now.
Right.
You can't have a compromised, unengaging film now. It needs to be engaging because they've seen the best. So I think that's the advantage of OTT. I think if we handle OTT well, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the whole ecosystem is going to prosper.
The American filmmaker Charles Roven, addressing the session, highlighted the changes in content creation that have taken place over the years.
So one of the great things about the content creation business is that you have to be able to change your course, right? And do things that when something's not working, you try something else. As the world evolves with all kinds of creations, that we as filmmakers and producers and content creators have to also change with the times and do things that are going to enhance people's desire to not only stay at home and at the comfort of their own couch, but also realize that the group experience in a movie theater you can't duplicate.
On the second day of the Waves 2025, India hosted the inaugural Global Media Dialogue session on Friday that brought together delegates from over 60 countries, marking a significant step in positioning India at the forefront of global media and entertainment discourse. Addressing the event, the Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnav discussed 3 anchor points for the session, including creativity, culture and collaboration.
Creativity transforms imagination into shared experience. As a government, we must provide a fair chance for everyone to showcase their story to the world. We must incentivize local content promotion and enforce IP rights in a proper framework, among other things that we need to do in creativity.
Ashwini Vaishnav stated that culture inspires creativity and helps connect people.
Culture inspires creativity and it connects people across borders. We must support policies that preserve and promote all cultural forms. Focus is shifting towards local stories, the local culture, and we aim to build people-to-people and country-to-country exchanges.
And Vaishnav also stressed on the importance of collaboration between government and creators to make a mark, underlined the fact that no one stakeholder can act alone.
Nothing happens in an island. We all have to collaborate for common success. We believe that tie-ups, collaborations between government, industry and creators and government to government, these collaborations have a huge value. Practical steps in this include co-production treaties, easing licenses, easing talent movement, having joint funds, having jointly created standards and clear rules for the upcoming technology.
And that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available in both Android and iOS. Here, you can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. Thank you for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.